All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachach Kodash. Double honors to the elder apostles, the elder bishops, the elders of Great Millstone who rule very well, very beautifully. Double salutations to the Akim out here pushing this gospel in truth and in sincerity, to the best of their ability, given to them by Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. Peace, blessings, and salutations be unto the elect scattered abroad. May the election of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Lord willing, fall upon out your houses. This is the brother Quana Wath from the Arizona Great Millstone Camp. Come back at you, Lord will, with the edifying lesson through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Lord will. It is edifying, Lord will. It is straight to the point. A flood of ICE agents is coming to a city near you. A flood of ICE agents is coming to a city near you. You know, and this is in the Newsbreak app. It says flood of ICE agents is coming to cities run by Democrats, White House warns. Right? It says White House border czar Tom Homan is promising to flood cities run by Democrats with immigration agents as the Trump administration ramps up border enforcement. Congress earlier this month gave the Trump administration more than $170 billion over the next 4 years to dramatically scale up enforcement, detention, and deportation. And Homan said Americans living in so-called sanctuary cities can expect to see far more agents on the street soon. Esau is ramping up this force, right? So that he can come in like a flood, right? He's building this force so that he can come in like a flood, man. Right? Jacob's trouble is upon us. Right? A flood of ICE agents is coming to a city near you, man. We in the times of Jacob's trouble, man. And it's evident. Right? Matter of fact, let's grab this. And this, kind of just woke up Jacob's trouble on the mind, man. This is Habakkuk chapter 2 and verse 3. Just getting to the point in the KJV. It says, for the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak. And it's speaking. Right? It's speaking loud and clear, man. Loud and clear. You got this man talking about, hey, we're finna flood, right? We're finna flood these cities with ICE agents, man. Right? And we understand that who has Esau been coming after? The so-called Latinos, the so-called Mexicans, the so-called natives, right? And then they went ahead and canceled all the visas, right, for over 500,000 Haitians, right? So they went from coming at the northern tribes to now they're coming at all the tribes, right? So we understand, right, who Esau's target is, and that's the Israelites, man. So Esau is about to come in, right, like a flood against you Israelites, man. Right? It says, though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. Right? And it's coming. Again, there's proof. Right? Esau is about to come down hard, man. Let's grab this. Revelations 12 and 12. It says, therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath. Right? He's saying we're gonna flood these cities, man. We're gonna go hard. Right? We gotta ramp up these numbers, man. Because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. Esau knows. Right? He sees the prophets out here, man. Right? He sees his power and deception over the world is waning drastically. because the true prophets of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua are out here, right, speaking the truth. That's why it talks about it being a dreadful sound in his ears, right? Esau is pissing this damn devil off, man, right? It struck fear in him, and now it's pissing him off. You know? So he's got to do something. And he's been ramping up. As soon as Trump got into office, man, Esau been turning things up for real. Right? As soon as Trump came into office, man, Operation Warp Speed. Boom, 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 boom. Executive order after executive order after executive order. He signed more executive orders than any president in office before him. You know, just within the first 100 days. You know, that's a whole shit ton, man. He been citing, man. His writing hand is probably strong as shit. You know, but Esau doing it, man. He's going harder. You know, and again, right, his main focus is who? The Israelites, man. The so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, man, which biblically are Israelites, right? Those are just, you know, proverbs and bywords, right, that we've been called, right, all throughout the ages, man. Right, just another one of them, right? Being called a so-called black man, right? A so-called African American, right? So-called Mexican, right? So-called Latino, like those are, and so-called Native American, right? Those are all proverbs and bywords, man. We're Israelites, man. Right? We're one of the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel, man. All together, we're Israelites, and that's who Esau's hatred is towards, right? Ezekiel 35:5. Right? I want to go back to this article real quick. It says we're going to flood the zone, Holman said at a July 21st press conference, which was a few days ago, man. Right? 3 days ago. It says sanctuary cities get exactly what they don't want. More agents in the community and more agents in the work site. When we arrest a suspected illegal immigrant in the community, if he's with others that are in the country illegally, they're coming too. So they're saying we're coming for all of y'all. You know? They're coming for all y'all. Is basically what they're saying, right? It says sanctuary cities won't help with ICE agents. The White House has repeatedly singled out cities from Los Angeles to Denver to Boston for their refusal to assist ICE agents making detentions, and Holman has threatened to arrest elected officials who stymie the president. I want to look up that word. See if I can get it right here. What does it say? Condition in which an opponent ball blocks the line of approach. Oh, so you're trying to basically block, right? So to block, right? To hinder, to thwart, right? Right. So they're saying, hey, you know, we're gonna arrest any, you know, any official, right, that goes against the president, right, and his orders, right? So they're saying, fuck it, you stand in our way, we getting you too, you know, which is, you know, ultimately division, right? Matthews 12:25, right? If a nation be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot be cannot stand, you know. So we're seeing the crumbling, seeing this is why Esau is going so hard, right? Because he sees that decline, he sees that fall, you know. So he's got to go now. You know, it says migrant rights group warned increased enforcement raises the risk of more civil rights violations and violent confrontations, like the chaotic protests that broke out in Los Angeles last month following the immigration and customs enforcement raids at a Home Depot and other locations. Right, so they're saying there's going to be more rioting. Right, if they increase, right, if they increase their you know, ICE, you know, raids and whatnot, right? They're saying that there's going to be rioting, man. right? So Esau's got his military prepared, right? Esau's got his robot, army prepared. Esau's ready for this, man. This is what he wants, right? Order ab chaos, order out of chaos, right? And he's gonna get it, man. Right? This is what is prophesied to take place, right? Jacob's trouble, the hour of temptation. Right? Let's go ahead and grab that in Jeremiah chapter 30, and we'll start at verse 5. I'll read it in the NLT. Jeremiah 30 and verse 5, it says, "This is what Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushai, says. I hear cries of fear, there is terror and no peace. Now let me ask you a question. Do men," and that's heavy too, because when you go back to Amos, the 5th chapter, right, it tells you that time is going to be like as if a man, ran from ran from a lion, right? Put his hand on a wall and a serpent bit him, right? I mean, you're going to go from one trouble to the next trouble. It's going to be one thing after another, man. It's going to be complete and utter terror, complete and utter, fear. Right? As a matter of fact, let's grab that real quick. I just fucking fly around me, man. Amos 5. Is that verse 21? Right here. Amos 5 in the header, it says right here, it says warning of coming judgment. Right? Warning of coming judgment. We're going to read in the NLT. It says, "Woman, to you that desire the day of Yahweh, by Hashem Yahushua, to what end is it for you? The end of the day of Yahweh, by Hashem Yahushua, is darkness and not light." Right? It says, "As if a man did flee from a lion and a bear met him, or went into the house and leaned his hand on a wall and a serpent bit him." Meaning he gonna run from one trouble into the next, one trouble into the next. Right? That's what Jacob's trouble is gonna be like, right? It says what? A fear of terror and no peace. Right? Verse 20, it says, "Shall not that day of Yahweh by Hashem Yahushua be darkness and not light, even very dark and no brightness in it?" Right? That's what it's gonna be like, man. All right, let's go back. I'll read verse 5 again. It says, Jeremiah 30 and 5 NLT. "This is what Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai says. I hear cries of fear. There is terror and no peace." Right? Now let me ask you a question. Do men give birth to babies? Then why do they stand there, ashen-faced, hands pressed against their sides like a woman in labor? Right? Because they're in fear. Right? They're in terror. Man, screaming and crying in the streets. Right? All these grown-ass men, these manly men that are out here, are going to be in terror. They're going to be in straits. Right? I'm not talking about straight line. I'm talking about just like the same as the definition for Matthew's 7 and verse 13 and 14. Right? That straight gate. Right? Position of difficulty. They're going to be in straits. They're going to be it's going to be a very terrible time, as we're going into, right? As we're seeing being prepared right now, right? Holman talking about, hey, we're finna flood these sanctuary cities with ICE agents. And it's not just going to be sanctuary cities, man. It's going to be all over, right? Even in these, because they're saying democratic states, right? Even in these Republican states, man. Right, we already seen that there being a dissent between, for within the MAGA, community, right, for the Trump administration, right? They don't, they feel betrayed, and they're already, everything's already in place, right, and ready and prepared, right? Esau's already got the, the Genius Act passed, right? Bros are posting, videos of a cashless or a reverse ATM. Or you put in cash and it gives you a card, right? Because at that place, right, that ATM was at, you can't use cash there, right? It's completely, cashless building, cashless everything, and that's here in America, right? So all the, the solution is already established, right? They just need the chaos, they need the problem to bring forth, that solution, right? And that's what we're seeing, about to take place, right? Esau about to create that problem. Esau about to create that chaos, right? He's going to come in like a flood, right? And apprehend, those who he deems to be, a problem or an issue in society, right? Those who are against him, which we know, again, his target are the Israelites, but even then it goes deeper, right? It's the prophets, right? Because the truth is coming out, and that's what he doesn't want. He doesn't want the truth to come out, because what does it do? It cuts, his plans, right? It identifies who he is and the problems that he, causes and has pushed throughout the earth. So he needs to get rid of, the prophets. This is why everything is happening, right? All the different policies and laws, and crack down on social media, and different anti-Semitism or anti-hate laws and so on and so forth. That's why all this is being passed, right? Scriptures talk about, this word has gone into the gates of the nobles, right? These elites, right? These higher up officials, they know about the Israelites, man. They know what's coming out. They watch the videos, and they have to sit here and try to stop this word from coming out. But if it be of the Most High, right, you can't stop it. As you read in, Acts the 5th chapter, right? So it says right here in verse 7, in the point, it says, in all history, there has never been such a time of terror. It will be a time of trouble for my people Israel. There you go. Right? That's why it's called Jacob's trouble. Because Esau is making war with the remnant of her seed, man, which is talking about you Israelites. All right, we're going to read that. I want to finish this off, though. It says, yet in the end, they will be saved. Right? And that's talking about the elect of the nation of Israel, man. The elect of the nation of Israel. Right? Because 2/3 of our people are going to be, the Lord is going to use this damn devil, right, to judge them, right? The Lord's going to use this devil to judge them, man, right? Which is right here first. I'll grab this. Psalm 17 and 13. KJV, it says, arise, O Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, disappoint him, cast him down, deliver my soul from the wicked, which is thy sword. So the Lord, Yahweh Shemel Shai, is going to judge, right, these 2/3 Israelites, man. Those that, continue to follow this damn devil. Those that continue to, trust and believe, in this damn devil system, and him, doing something for them. They have looked, for a nation that could not save, they're looking, for the succor of men. Right, but as the scriptures also say, right, they're trusted in the shadow of Egypt shall be to their shame and confusion, right? Because that same devil, right, is going to be the one that's going to ultimately put them to death. The Lord is going to use that same one that they so-called believe and trust in, right, to ultimately put them to death, man. Which is a cold shot, but it's a righteous judgment from Yahweh Shem El Shai nonetheless, right? Because of their wickedness, because of their evil. Now I want to grab this and Revelations 12 and 17. Right? And I'll read it in verse 17. It says, in the dragon, in the NLT, it says, and the dragon was angry at the woman and declared war against the rest of her children. And this is what you're seeing, right? He's getting all these ICE agents and whatnot, and rounding them up, and coming after, right, the Israelites, just as he did, right, going back in the time of, the Roman Empire, right, 70 AD, right? Esau came in like a flood, right, against us, right? Which you can read actually at the top of this chapter, right? We'll read in the KJV. It says that the woman Israel, right, says, and there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars, which is talking about, again, right, going into 12 tribes. It says, and she being with child cried and travailing in birth and pained to be delivered. The red dragon Satan, it says, there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads. Right, it's going into that, that beast, right? It says, and his tail drew, which you can read in Revelation, the 13th chapter, then the next chapter. It says, his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. It says the male child, right? Which, again, right, you can read that in Matthew's 2nd chapter, right? Herod ultimately killing all the children under 2 years old, if I'm not mistaken. Trying to prevent, Yahushua's coming, right? It says the male child. It says, and she brought forth a man child, who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. Talking about Yahushua. It says, and her child was caught up into the Most High, into his throne. And the woman fled in the wilderness, where she hath a place prepared of the Most High, that they should feed her there 1,260 days. Which, fled into that wilderness is going into the Israelites fleeing, right, from 70 AD, right, that siege, of Jerusalem, right? They fled to the western and northern parts of Africa, right? And see, Esau, right, eventually, right, followed after, came after us, and did what, right? So this is why you got 16, 19, all the way till, now, right? Us being in captivity, Let's skip down. Right here, right, verse 15, it says, and the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood, right? So Esau, is still coming in, right, coming in after us, right, like a flood. So this is Ecclesiastes 1 and 9, right? There's no new thing under the sun. Esau did it back then, right? With the siege of Jerusalem, right, coming in like a flood upon us, right? And he did it afterwards when he came to, put us in captivity, and he's going to do it again now. This is what Esau is basically telling you, right? There's going to be a flood, right, of ICE agents, right, in these cities, man, in a city near you, Right, but again, going back, right, it says, verse 17, it says, the dragon in the NLT, and the dragon was angry at the woman and declared war against the rest of her children, all who keep the Most High's commandments and maintain their testimony for Yahushua. So again, it's not just, against the Israelites, right, but it's against the prophets, right, those who are, again, against, his system, man. That's why it says, there's going to be a great insurrection upon those that fear the Lord, because his main target is those who are against his system, man. And we've seen this time and time again, and we understand, right, what's coming, right, that within this time period, right, the persecution, right, is going to happen, Amos 8 and 11 is going to happen, which is, again, all prophecy, which is the whole point, for prophecy to be fulfilled, man, right, which is what we want. It's prophecy to be fulfilled so we can get the fuck up out of here, man, because fuck this place, man, but hey, the Lord said what, right, but he shall be saved out of it. Yes, you are going to have some, right, those who are the men of the Lord, right, are going to be, apprehended and, ultimately put to death, right, for the name of Yahweh Bashem El-Sham, for their testimonies. We read in Revelations, the 20th chapter, in verse 4, right, just grabbing that real quick. In KJV, it says, and I saw thrones, and them that sat upon them. It's like, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them, And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded, right, killed, right, for the witness of Yahushua and the word of the Most High, and which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither had received his mark upon their foreheads or in their hands, and they lived and reigned with Hamashiach 1,000 years, and that's going into the first 1,000 years, right, in the kingdom, you know. So there's going to be some that are going to be, you know, apprehended and put to death, right? But you're going to have a lot, right, that Yahweh Bashim al-Shah is ultimately going to be doing miracles for, man. Great miracles for. In these times, right? He said, but Jacob shall be delivered out of it, man. You know, what does the Psalms the 34th chapter say? Psalm was at 34:17. In the KJV, it says, the righteous cry, and Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushua, heareth and delivereth them out of all their troubles, man. Right? So you're going to have a good vast majority, right, of the elect that are going to be calling upon the name of Yahweh and Yahushua, and there's going to be miracles and deliverance, right, that's going to be taking place in these times, right? However, right, that looks, right, as we read in Isaiah 59 and verse 19. KJV, it says, so shall they fear the name of Yahweh Bahashim Yahushua from the west, and his glory from the rising of the sun, when the enemy shall come in like a flood. The spirit of Yahweh Bahashim Yahushua shall lift up a standard against him, you know. So meaning Yahweh Bahashim Yahushua is going to be there for the elect, right? It says he had care for the elect, right? Lord, will we be of that number, man? As long as we continue to, you know, keep the faith, right? Keep glorifying, exalting the names of our power, Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushua, preaching and teaching this word, right? In truth and in sincerity, right? No lies of the truth, a little leaven up the whole lump. We gotta be preaching 100% truth, which, you know, the Wadi Yahweh Bahashim Yahushua had, you know, given to our beloved apostles, right? Who then, you know, ultimately raised us up, right? Through the Spirit, man, in our proper order. Right, first with the elder bishops, right, elders, other Akim that came before us, you know. These are those true prophets, right? Those pastors which shall feed you with wisdom and knowledge, you know. Again, beginning with the elder apostles on down. Lord, will we be of that number, man? Yahweh Bashim al-Shah gonna be doing those miracles for us, right? And that's something that we have to believe, man. We truly have to believe that, right? We in these times, man, Jacob's trouble is right around the corner, you know. And I want to close out again in, I gotta go to another one. Second Esdras, chapter 16 and verse 73. It says, verse 73 says, then shall they be known who are my chosen, and they shall be tried as gold in the fire, right? Right, because at that time, man, again, Yahweh Bashim al-Shah is going to make it evident who he's been with this whole time and who's had the truth. You know, right? We believe here, Great Millstone, beginning with our elder apostles on down, right? We believe that we have the 100% truth of the scriptures, man, right? Of what we need to know, right, in order to be delivered, man. We believe that through faith, right? Verse 74 says, hear, O ye my beloved, saith the Lord, behold, the days of trouble are at hand. They're right around the corner. It says, but I will deliver you from the same, right? So here we go again, right? Lord talking about trouble. Right, but then at the same time, he's talking about trouble, talking about deliverance, right? Because that right there is going to take place, right? Yahweh Bashim al-Shah is going to deliver, right, the righteous from all of their troubles, man. You know, and the Lord does it now, right? Even with things that we don't see, man. Right, the Lord's constantly protecting us, you know, from wickedness, man, from evil, right? And this is why, you know, the elder apostle Rakah, you know, the elder apostle Rakah. Always talking about keeping your medicine strong, man, right? Keeping your medicine strong, constantly praying, you know. Be constantly in prayer. Stay in the spirit as much as possible. You know, and I speak for myself first and foremost, right? It's something that we need to be doing, you know, ASAP, you know. Constantly being in the scriptures, man. Watching a video, right? As much as possible, as much as you can, you know. Obviously, we got stuff we got to do in the world and whatnot that takes our attention, right? Don't beat yourself up about that, right? But any kind of leisure time that you got, man, put it towards the Lord, you know? We in those times, man. You know, verse 75, be ye not afraid, neither doubt, for the Most High is your guide, right? Don't be afraid and don't, you know, he said what? He gave us not the spirit of fear, right? But of power, of love, and of a sound mind, you know? And then what? He said what? And neither doubt, man. We can't doubt, man. Doubt is a demon, right? And if you got any kind of doubt within yourself, man, yeah, you definitely gotta pray and fast that demon away, man. Because this can happen at any moment, man. At any moment, right? Esau coming in like a flood, right? Hemming up the men of the Lord. That, you know, there was talks about, you know, him coming in and apprehending, right, those who are you know, basically like openly against his society, openly against his agenda, right? Like we are, right? As well as many others, right? Coming and getting us before he actually, you know, announces martial law, before he actually, you know, fully, you know, does what he needs to do, right? So it can happen at any moment right now, man. Esau can come down at any moment, right? So we can't have those doubt demons. We can't have those, you know, that fearful, you know, demon within us, man. We got to trust and believe in Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, right? It says, and the guide of them who keep my commandments and precepts, saith the Lord power. Let not your sins weigh you down, and let not your iniquities lift up themselves. That's right, man. Right? Because we're gonna fuck up, right? We're in these, you know, sinful bodies and whatnot. We're gonna fuck up, you know. And at times, you know, it'll come to your mind that, hey, you know, damn, I'm always fucking up and this, that, and the third. But you know, hey, understand that, you know, the Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, you know, ultimately, as Scripture says, as His majesty is, so is His mercy, right? The Lord is merciful, man, right? As long as you're sincere and you know, you repent, you know, hey, the Lord will have mercy upon you, you know. So don't, you know, Scripture say you're gonna want to tell yourself more than 7 watchmen, but you gotta, you know, you gotta have mercy on yourself as well. You know, again, we're in these sinful bodies, man. Apostle Paul said it. Why do I do that which I want not? I mean, he kept doing shit he didn't want to do, right? Kept sinning because we're in the sinful flesh, right? Just remember to get back up, continue to trust and believe in Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, right? And the Lord will sustain you. The Lord will get you through, right? If you be part of the elect, you know. But that's all I got, man. I ultimately just had Jacob's trouble on the brain, man. You know, remember the article I had, kind of want to throw it together. Lord will, you know, it was edifying. Just kind of had to press the button on it. You know, Lord will is edifying. Lord will straight to the point. I want to give all praise, honor, glory to Yahweh B'Hashem, Yahweh Shai B'Hashem, Rachak Wadash, double honor to the other apostles, other bishops of Great Millstone. Till next time, I say shalom.